check out these spicy patch notes.
The first thing that we're going to cover is good old fucking Microsoft. And mother, dude. Okay.
Yep.
So if you are an audio listener and you're not here live, what we're talking about here is that last week Microsoft announced that they were closing the Redfall developer Arkane Austin, HiFi Rush developer Tango Gameworks, and also doing some pretty hefty cuts over at Bethesda. So this story that we're showcasing comes to us from IGN. So like this to me is like such a slap to the fucking face, because I was such a person that truly shouted and praised Phil Spencer and really championed him for this, or not for this, but just for in general what he was talking about and touting and all this shit or whatever. And man, like, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah,
I have no faith in.
Why don't you tell him what the fuck he did before he like 20 minutes into the conversation?
He fucking closed him. What do you mean he closed everything? Like I mean, it's obviously it's not like. Can we just say that it's him solely? No, it's not just his decision, but he is absolutely part of the decision to close down these studios. And again, you're talking about like Arkane Austin, which they were the ones that did Redfall. Redfall was supposed to have a fucking update. Actually was supposed to have an update here recently. That all of the work had been done, and they killed that, right? Like that's gone. That's not happening.
Well, let's dial it back. Let's just put some context on this. Right?
Dialing back.
Redfall has not had an update in a year.
That makes this better. That makes this any better.
Like that's ridiculous, dude. They have not had anything come out in a year. We've been waiting on that. That was the original idea, or the original news article that I posted was that this is the day before they got closed down was like their year anniversary, right? And we still hadn't seen any DLC characters. We still hadn't seen any of the updates or anything like that. So, and then magically after their thing closed, they were like, oh, hey, by the way, we're gonna have an update. We were gonna have an update in like 2 weeks. Sure, right.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
for the entire year. You can't tell me that it took a year for you to remove Always Online from your fucking video game.
Right.
I mean,
I feel like that's being a little bit blamey to the company. Like,
oh no,
they have no reason to not.
Let's step it back 100%. Fucking the decision to destroy these fucking things was terrible. But I'm just saying, Arkane Austin was not at fault for this. Like they released a shitty product and then didn't put out any updates.
Like they released one shitty product in a repertoire of generally good products.
They released one shitty product, and the last good product that they released was Prey, which was back in like what 2012.
Oh, that was Arkane, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I still when Forspoken came out, right? We gave.
No, Arkane Austin, I don't think did Dishonored. That was Arkane Studios in general, but Arkane Austin did Prey, I believe.
They just did Prey and Redfall.
And Redfall, and I think like one other game, but I'm not entirely
wasn't
sure.
Them as well?
I don't think so. I thought that it was, but I think that's Arkane Leon or Leon or whatever it is.
I can't find the difference, but okay. Oh, I see.
Okay, so here's the thing. Back when Forspoken came out, we gave shit to Square Enix for not doing their job of intervening right with this. When Redfall came out, we gave shit to Xbox, and Phil himself walked out on stage on Twitter in a video and was like, this is our fucking bad. I'm going to own this. We're going to correct it. We're going to make it right and do all of those kind of things. And so I understand that, the studio did not continue to update or whatever else, but we don't know the conversations that were happening behind closed doors, that maybe that studio was trying to do stuff and Xbox basically was slow rolling this and basically, putting roadblocks in place and putting things to stop it. I'm not saying that they were
definitely still working on it, because I think the day that the announcements came out, they updated the Steam patch cache with a new patch that was they were like basically loading up a new patch to come out for Redfall. I don't know if it's the big update that they were talking about in the thing, but literally the day that the closures happened, they had updated that cache on Steam. So they were still working on it to some capacity.
And I get what you're saying, that yes, the developer, it doesn't take a year to develop stuff. You can definitely roll stuff out, but also in these types of situations, I guarantee you that the chain of command to get this stuff approved and get this stuff working and spend time and spend money and spend effort decisions were being made by Microsoft, right? This is a Microsoft owned property. This is a Microsoft owned company, and they did very little, if anything, to support, Arkane Austin. And even like, fuck Arkane Austin. Please explain to me HiFi Rush and fucking the Evil Within Tango Gameworks. How the fuck does that make sense?
Explaining that. Yeah.
I stated that in that too. I don't understand the HiFi Rush. And then for them to come out and be like, well, the reason why we closed down these studios was because we wanted to focus on smaller projects with smaller teams makes no fucking sense, because literally closed HiFi Rush, which was a small team that was a small product that did extremely well for you. That was one of the things that didn't make any fucking sense to me right there, was like HiFi Rush was one of their biggest sellers this year. Right. Like that's one of their major products that they released this year. The other two, I mean, I can't remember what the other one was. Was it Dog something? What was
Alpha
the other
Dog
one?
Gaming.
Alpha Dog Gaming. Alpha Dog Gaming. They basically they didn't. I mean, they closed down the studio, but they merged them into ZeniMax Online Entertainment, which was
that was
Alpha Dog didn't get.
That was Roadhouse.
Was that the other one? The Roadhouse. Yeah, I couldn't remember which one was what, but yeah, Roadhouse. They were already working with ZeniMax. So granted, yes, it sucks that they got closed down, but at least those people went, they went someplace that their talent can be useful, right? Which is more than can be said for Arkane Austin, which does suck, because granted, Redfall, terrible fucking product. Prey, amazing, right? Prey was great. Prey was one of the better games that released that year that it released, right? So it sucks to see that talent being let go. But at least with Redfall, I can understand. The rest of them, I can't understand it. I don't understand what the fuck was going through Microsoft's head.
It makes me wonder, like, if the shadow launch of HiFi Rush was because Xbox did not have any faith in the product at all. Like, how long has I guess Microsoft, let's just call it what it is. Well, how long has Microsoft been wanting to consolidate these acquisitions and just been waiting for like the right time, or like enough distance from the Activision Blizzard purchase to have gotten by before they start cutting teams?
Well, Microsoft also rarely does a good job with like marketing their like smaller studios.
They at least have some trailer to stuff. Just completely shadow dropping.
The shadow drop was a curveball for sure.
Well, and it worked in their favor in this regard, but it didn't save the studio.
I think as well that HiFi Rush, the big issue with that was like, and we've talked about it in the past, like HiFi Rush was a huge sales point for Xbox Game Pass. Like that was where they dropped it originally. Right. That was where they shadow dropped it originally, was Xbox Game Pass. So, and I think you brought it up, Bill, that you were curious if this was some kind of like detriment to their Xbox Game Pass, or if these were like,
that's my biggest question, is like, with the Activision Blizzard purchases, them spending a lot of money on that, I would love to see what Game Pass is doing right now, and seeing if that kind of, if there's a financial hit happening due to not enough subscribers to Game Pass, and that's why they're cutting studios as well.
Yeah, but I mean, what boggles my mind, and I've sat on this for 2 weeks now, right? Like I've been mulling all of this over and looking at all this kind of stuff and reading into like, what they've done and how they've tried to fucking wordsmith themselves out of this, right? And I forgot her name, the head of Xbox right now. She what is why can I not find her name? If one of you guys can find it while I'm looking at this, I cannot remember her name. But she goes out, and in the midst of all of this, she sits there and goes, well, we're looking at somebody asked them directly, being like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is the vision here? What was the plan for this? And they're like, well, we want to focus in on the
Jamie Letter.
Yes, thank you. You know, Jamie Letter comes out and is talking about how she wants to focus in on like the mobile side, and they're about to launch, like dodges the question completely and goes into this whole like mobile store fucking platform bullshit or whatever else, and how that's a market that they want to go into. And then but then you look at like, okay, cool, if that's your that's your play, well, Alpha Dog Games does mobile games, you shut them the fuck down, so that doesn't answer that. Then you talk about somebody else was like, oh well, Matt Booty comes out and talks about how it was like, oh well, we're gonna, you know, again, like Enigma said, we're consolidating to make smaller games. Well, you shut down Tango Gameworks, that doesn't do that. Does this basically say like, hey, if you release a game and it's not a fucking hit, you're gonna get axed? Like, what does this say to all of your other, you know, companies that you own, like Obsidian? What does this say to Obsidian? Like, if you were, or
I mean,
Avowed, like if you don't really, if Avowed doesn't hit, are y'all gone? Like,
if Obsidian, I think that if Obsidian doesn't come out banging with this new, what is it called?
Avowed.
What's their new one? Avowed. Because we've talked about Avowed, like the first like gameplay trailer or whatever it was that they released. Rough. It was rough. It looked really bad, dude. So I would, if I was them, I would be extremely worried about it too. I mean,
and then, you know, we're talking about money, and we're talking about you know, the Game Pass, the subscribe. Microsoft is valued at $3 trillion fucking dollars. $3 trillion fucking dollars. Like, are you kidding me? You're going to tell me right now that you, like, I get, we all have, like, companies have fucking people they got to answer to, board, stockholders, they were net positive on their games by 37% over last quarter. Are you fucking kidding me? Go fuck yourselves. Every single one of y'all can go fuck yourselves. Seriously. Go ahead,
also,
Bill.
I apologize. It's Sarah
yeah, you guys.
not Jamie Letter.
Sarah Bonds. That's it. Sorry. Sarah Bonds.
But yeah, and it goes. I want to see the Xbox Game Pass numbers. The only thing that I can think of that would make these kind of things, especially after a massive acquisition, that they have always said, or at least Phil Spencer's always said, that they do not plan on. They're not purchasing to shrink the industry. They're purchasing to benefit the industry, and this goes directly against that. I would love to see Game Pass numbers and see if Game Pass is even profitable for Microsoft at this point.
And I'm wondering if it is to do with Game Pass, because I can't think of any other reason.
I can tell you exactly. It's you have Xbox over here doing one thing, right? Xbox is saying this one thing, and then you have Microsoft, right? You've got the Big Daddy, you have Big Daddy Microsoft, and the fucking head of Microsoft, the Eye of Sauron, came down and said, we just spent $69 billion, right? Somebody over, Sarah Bond should have slapped the motherfucker in the face and said, $3 trillion, shut up. Like, go away. $3 trillion. You can fucking spare. You don't wipe your ass with $69 billion, dude. You, like, that's chump change. Go away. But Microsoft said, I just spent $69 billion. And now they're going over going, what the fuck, right? Like, you better, shit better add up. And Xbox is over here going, hey guys, Game Pass, we're going to meet you where we're at. Like, Phil's out there going, we're going to meet you where we're at. We're going to meet you where you're at. We're going to meet you where you're at. And apparently where you're at is in the unemployment line, because they, you know, and also, like, why did they not go to the Toys for Bob? Why did they just release them? Be like, hey, you know what? Arkane, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna sell, like, not sell you off, but whatever, like, you can become your own thing. They did it with Toys for Bob. They let them go, right? Like, Toys for Bob got let to go do their own thing. They didn't get shut down. They got released.
You want to know why? I can tell you exactly why. Because they want the IPs.
Yeah,
and if they let them go, the IPs go with them. So by doing this, they can maintain Evil Within. They can maintain HiFi Rush, and they can make
it works.
Those franchises
I was about to say
forward.
That works for HiFi Rush, but like Redfall and Arkane, that doesn't really necessarily work because they still own Arkane. It's just Arkane Austin. So I don't know, man. It makes no sense. Again, Arkane, I understand from a business point, right? Like they've not been performing very well. HiFi Rush, I don't.
I mean, I don't Austin, see it. Yeah. I still don't see it from a business point, because Redfall was in production before. Redfall was in production before the Bethesda purchase, or was this the first?
This was the first one.
This was the first.
Okay. The first one.
Okay. Well, that changes things a little bit. It's still,
but it's still shitty. I mean, it's a fucking one and done. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
like,
it's a one and done. And Phil Spencer admitted wholeheartedly that they were way too hands off with that project. So
Yeah.
he took the blame for it, but that studio still got punished, even though Microsoft, as you said, they're how much trillion? $3 trillion?
$3 trillion.
They
Yeah.
have the money to supplement these studios better than any corporation almost on the planet. They have the backing to make it so that these studios should be able to thrive. If they can't thrive under that kind of a backing, then what can they do?
And also,
mean-
what is it? What does it say to a developer? Like I said, to just be like, if your game flops right now, you're fucking done. And what would it look like if they would have come out and said, hey, you know what? Our bad. We're gonna make this right, but also it's not on y'all. Like, we're gonna take onus. Arcane, fix your shit, right? You've got everything that you need to fix it. Go fix it, make it right. And you know what? We've got the next one. I get that you can't just have a studio pumping out bullshit. Like, I get that. I 100%
Right.
understand. But at the same time, you can't just expect like that you can, you know, I don't know. Like, I look at it like trading a dog. You can't just expect that, you know, you say, hey, don't piss on the floor. They piss on the floor. And then you're like, all right, that's it. Old Yeller time. Like, holy fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
they got Fallout 76, and that game was a shit show when it launched. You know, and they got. I mean, I know they launched before the acquisition, but still, they are still going and supporting them with Fallout 76. They could have easily done that with Redfall.
yeah, this is just, I don't know, man. Like, it really, like, this was the kicker, and then it just seemed to everything else continue just to go downhill.
Yeah.
Like, it just seemed.
I just hate seeing acquisitions that are shrinking the industry actively. Like, not only was these studios being purchased up going to shrink how many players can get these games, but now they have effectively cut off any, like, whatever future those companies held, whether it was good, bad, ugly, we will never know.
Yeah, and also
that sucks worse than anything, because the industry just got smaller because Microsoft wanted to save a buck.
I feel like we got. I as consumers, I feel like we got duped. Like, and
Do you feel like these studios would have been better off without the acquisition, or do you like? Because I know ZeniMax was saying that they were struggling prior to acquisition, financially, but
I
do
just
you think these kinds of cuts would have happened
I
regardless?
I think that with at least with Arkane Austin, if they hadn't picked up Arkane, granted I can't say with 100% certainty, but again, the last banger that Arkane Austin put out with Prey back in whenever Prey released,
17.
I can't remember, 17, and then to come out with this with Redfall, regardless if they had, you know, support from Microsoft or not, I think that if Austin was still being owned, or if Arkane was just themselves, they might have very well been on the chopping block regardless. So I don't know, maybe not.
I mean, I think they would have had a better chance.
Because like your analogy of like training a dog, that has nothing to do with it. Like that's like training your dog for years and years and years, and the dog does really well, and then all of a sudden it just releases a shit show. You know, granted, yeah, it's a shitty thing to do. Again, I'm not stating that it's a good thing. I've never stated that. It's a fucking shitty thing for Xbox to do. But I can understand where they're coming from from a business point. You know. That's just my point of view.
I don't.
I get what you're saying about the business thing. As a gamer, I don't give a fuck.
I mean, I'm a gamer too.
But I don't give a fuck about the business.
I can look at it as a business aspect.
Still, but we're still losing games. We're losing potential games.
Yeah, again, I'm not stating it's a good thing.
From them making business decisions, we only lose.
Yeah, so
I'm not stating it's a good thing. I'm just stating I can see from a business point of view, they failed miserably. What's the next step? Yeah, granted, they could put a ton of money into it, but then you're going to have to go to, you know, again, we stated that Microsoft, it's not Xbox, it's Microsoft that has the $3 trillion, right? They're going to have to go to Xbox, Phil's going to have to go to Microsoft and be like, hey, I know they haven't released an update in a year and it released pretty piss poorly. Can I get a couple billion to try and figure this shit out?
Yeah,
right?
so
like,
I agree with you to a point of but at the same time, as if like, I will give them carte blanche okay on Arkane Austin if we get to see. I want the documentation showing how much input did Microsoft give, how much coaching and development did Microsoft do, like were they actually hands on?
They didn't do anything. We already know that they didn't do anything with that because it was their first acquisition with them. So we already know that they blew the fucking coop on that one. They kind of screwed the pooch on that one.
And also too, like, just, you know, like, I don't know, man. There's so many other ways that you could have taken this and moved it into different and just like
I
keep going. Sorry, go ahead.
They could have went the Square Enix approach with the Forspoken studio, where they just consolidate everybody back into the company, spread them out, be like, hey, you're not to be working on your own, but we still want the talent because we recognize that there's talent there, like they did with the one studio that
Roadhouse
Roadhouse.
Studios.
I wonder why they brought Roadhouse's developers in the fold but cut everybody else loose. That it's
I mean, there were a few from
Roadhouse
Arkane Austin that did get absorbed.
Because Roadhouse was already working with ZeniMax pretty heavily already, so it made sense to push them over. ZeniMax came out and stated that up front. They were like, yeah, the reason why they came over to us is because we had already been working with them pretty exclusively, so it made sense. And we already had an issue with like not having enough people to work on certain things, right? To dial back just really quickly, and then this is the last thing I'm going to say about Arkane Austin, because I feel like I'm just going back and forth on this. To dial it back, I understand what you're saying when it comes down to like, I want to see how much hands-on Xbox had with them, but at the same time, it's Arkane Austin. They're not a new fucking studio. I don't really feel like Xbox needed to have their hands on their shoulders, being like, hey, you gonna put that update out, buddy? Hey, you gonna fix that game, buddy? I think that
after a bad launch,
part of the responsibility of an acquisition.
No, this is before. This is before. This is before. Like I feel I misspoke that. I feel like them having their shoulders on them for the entire development cycle prior to that release for Redfall, they shouldn't have had to do that. That's ridiculous to me. Arkane Austin should not have had a babysitter the entire time they were.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not saying you had to have a babysitter, but I mean, if you spent however much money, because that was during that was the Bethesda, so that was $7 billion. If you spend $7 billion on something, you're not just gonna be like, meh, I'm gonna guess it's okay. It's doing all right. Like, y'all did okay the first time. Like, you guys are fine. Like, there no check-ins there. And then a dumpster fire gets launched. You admit to fucking owning up, being like, hey, this is our fault. And then I guarantee you never showed your face again and never did anything, because the original plan was to shut them down. Like, the plan was Redfall sucked. We're shutting it down. Fuck it. Like, some PR person said, Phil, go out there, make good. And somebody back behind the doors were going, we're slitting their throat. And that's it. And they never got touched. No,
that was a stupid move on Phil's part. Personally, I don't think he ever should have come out and been like, yeah, that was our fault.
On that one.
Yeah,
that was a terrible decision.
And I don't think we have the article here, but he's paying for it in Fallout 76 because the motherfucker's base is getting nuked left and right. So, you know, and good on him.
He somehow managed to get the nuke codes himself, though, through all of that bullshit.
But he went did the Enclave quest.
I don't know, man. Like, this is, and you guys are going to the chat, you'll see as we continue to move through the news, like, it's just going to continue, right? I canceled my Game Pass subscription. I'm not supporting this type of behavior. Like, I know this is crazy, you know, or whatever else. And you can think, but I don't know, man, like, this has soured my taste. Like, I have no faith in fucking what they were going to do with Blizzard. I have no faith now in Microsoft and what they're going to do with, you know, this acquisition with Activision. And to be 100% honest, like, I have no faith in them acquiring another fucking studio. Like, I have, you know, I don't know, man. Like, I want to apologize to all the gamer, everybody that, like, I was like, hey, like, I'm shouting, touting Microsoft from the top of the fucking mountain. I don't know, man. I feel like I got duped.
I think, thanks all for tuning in to the Patch Notes. And if you enjoyed and want to see more, you can catch us live every Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, or catch us after the fact at anchor.fm/prepatch podcast. See you next time.